And good morning, and talk about perfect timing this morning. I'm here to talk to Emily Francis about her new book, uh, If You Only Knew, and she'll be telling you all about her in her book in just a moment. But because this is Hispanic Heritage Week, what a perfect book to talk about, and what a perfect author to talk to. So, that all said, uh, Emily's now going to tell us a little bit about her background and in the book and the whole nine yards. I'm going to shut up and turn it over to Emily. It's all you. Take it
All
over.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure when I get invited by readers and people who do want to make sure that students get compelling text in the classrooms for teachers and students. So I'm Emily Francis. I am a current ESL teacher. ESL stands for English as a Second Language. So I'm teaching at the high school level right now. It's my fifth year teaching at the high school level. I did elementary before doing high school, and it is what I consider the best profession ever. But before becoming a teacher, of course, I struggled to put myself through school here in the United States. I'm born in Guatemala. I'm Guatemalan. I was born in Guatemala and lived in Guatemala for 15 years. Wait enough time for me to embrace my culture, my language, love and passion for tortillas and black beans and tamales and all the good things that you can say about Latinx culture. And I come here to the United States after being separated from my mother for 2 years. She came here in 92. I stay back home with my siblings, and I go in more details in the book. But in 1994, she makes a way for me to come here to the United States. And that's when I start my journey as a student here in the United States, not knowing any English, of course. I started facing so many barriers, language, of course, and then culture, and then socioeconomics, and just so many factors that we know that can hinder an immigrant's success in school. And so all those factors piled up over my shoulder. I ended up dropping out of high school and just hid behind a register at a grocery store for so many years, knowing deep in my heart that I could be a god darn good teacher. Like I knew I could do it. And I say that because I am. I strive to be the best teacher that I can be for my students. And in the bottom of my heart, I knew I could do that. So 2004, I fill out an application to work as a custodian. I figure if I know how to clean, I can just make my way into the school system. Little did I know that I was going to get a position as a teacher assistant. And, that's another story that I share in my book, because it was through a teacher that I was able to realize my potential. Going into that interview, in my head, I was thinking, I'm going to work as a custodian. I didn't realize that there was going to be somebody behind that desk who was going to tap into my potential, that was going to make me realize that my journey and my experiences were enough for me to make it beyond being a custodian, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's a profession, but it's not the profession I wanted to make an impact in society. Then so I get the job as a teacher assistant. From 2004, I started going to community college part-time while working full-time. I was a bus driver, a teacher assistant, a parent, a college student. I was trying to navigate so many things, and putting myself through school as an English language learner was hard. It's again the language barrier. That's something we face our entire life. But throughout those years, putting myself through college, I began embracing my own identity. Those pieces that had been shattered back when I was in school, the putting away my culture and my language that was packed away through college and through the understanding of how language acquisition works. I was able to then love my culture again and my language, and realize that I am enough, and who I am, my immigrant experiences, my language, my culture, all of that is juicy, is good for me to impact those around me, especially students. And so 2012, finally, years later, I get my license to begin teaching English as a second language. And that's when I walked into a space that I was given and embraced the opportunity to touch students' lives. And that's where If You Only Knew, Letters from an Immigrant Teacher comes in. I was able to start teaching immigrant students, and seeing them was reflecting my own experiences. So in the book, I do tell my story from my immigration to my experience here in the United States, but I also share 8 other fabulous immigrant stories that intertwine with mine. And what's fascinating about this book that it's not centered on me. It's not centered on Mrs. Emily Francis. It's centered on the relationships and the power that we have as teachers to be able to connect with students. And then again, if you're a reader who have never experienced any immigration journeys, then there is something that you can learn from this book, that you can connect with students. So my goal for this book, of course, there are 2 goals. One is for students to grab the book and say, oh, Orlando's life is like my life. Raquel's life is like my life. I see myself. I reflect me. I am being valued and identified. And the other one is for teachers to read it and say, I didn't know that a student sitting in my room can go through these experiences. I did not realize what they could be going through if I don't ask, if I don't reach out, if I don't connect with my students. And hopefully when the teacher says, I love this book, they're going to bring it into the classroom so other students can read it.
Okay,
And
I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment
okay,
and make a couple of observations. First of all, folks, what an inspiring story. Okay, your personal story is absolutely inspiring, and the fact that the depth of your wanting to be a teacher, that's just like, oh my gosh. We need just lots more folks like you. And the other part of it, before you dive into the students, is there were just a couple of different student stories, and folks, I've read the book, and it's a series of letters, and I would suggest, okay, keep that handy, because they're really inspiring stories. So a couple of um, well, one quote from the book that just caught me: "My parents crossed the border so I could cross the stage." What a powerful statement.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about a couple of the students we might find out about and their inspiring stories in this book. We don't have time to cover all of them, but
Yeah, I was
a
gonna
couple that,
say,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
a couple just to kind of a teaser to let the teachers out there know there are some kids that you really connected with and whose
Yeah,
stories are inspiring. So
yeah,
I'll send it back to you.
of course. I mean, the first one, the first student in the book is Orlando. And one of the reasons, and I love the fact that he's first in the book, because we created such a great connection and relationship once we got to know each other's stories. And it took some time for me to get to know Orlando's story, because we can't put students against the wall as soon as they come out of, from whatever experience they had gone through to get here, and say, hey, tell me your story, tell me how you got here. You can't do that, because you are touching very sensitive wounds. Things happen in the trajectory to come here. And I knew Orlando had experienced a tough journey from El Salvador, especially because what's happening in that country, and then coming here. And so before he even came here to the US, when he enrolled, before he came into the school, I had received an email that he was coming with an ankle bracelet, which means he had been busted by immigration. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's like me. I experienced that. I need to tell him. But and then I was thinking, I need to give him time. He needs time to process what had happened. And through literature, through the lessons that I have provided in the classroom to learn English as a second language, he ended up reading a story about Avi Said, who traveled from Honduras all the way to the United States. And then he raises his hand and he starts pouring out his story. So I love the fact that Orlando is first, because that is such a powerful way for us to be able to touch students' lives and identify with their stories is through literature. So that's why I love Orlando. And Jamie is the last story. He is the reason why I moved and I transitioned from the elementary level to the high school level. So I thought I was going to die teaching elementary students, because I love being on the floor and teaching, just cleaning snot off their books and all of that. I just loved it. But and then I was offered a temporary position at a high school level, just 2 weeks at a summertime. And that's when I met Jorge. Jorge burst us into the classroom with the excitement that I can remember at that age as a 15-year-old student. But at the same time, there was fear that I wasn't going to be able to connect with him or understand him, or I don't know, but you can tell that he was scared. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. Jamie is right there just reflecting my own experiences. And so he made me want to start working at the high school level. So those are two of the stories that you will hear. Of course, I go a little deeper in that, but you will see how amazing these kids are and how my stories intertwine with their lives.
Okay, and not only are the kids amazing, but you are an amazing teacher as well. Let's talk a little bit more about um, other roles that you have, because I know you talk to new teachers as a motivational speaker. I'd love to hear what you say to them. And then I'd like to kind of wrap it up with where to get the book and, well, first, how the book was received. And I know it's been received very well, and where to get it. But especially since I'm about to be talking to some first year teachers in just a couple of weeks, I need some. What do you say to them?
Yes.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
you cover that and how to get the book and all that. Okay, it's all
thank
you
you.
again.
Thank you. All right. So, yeah, I do a lot of work with teachers, and I do consider that part of my calling, just what I work, with students to make sure that they are reaching their true potential. I do like to work with teachers to make sure that they are working at their full potential to make sure that they are impacting students. So I do go across the country doing keynote and doing small breakout sessions to teach teachers. And one of the things that I highlight in my motto as I go around the country is provide spaces for healing time. Students need spaces, and classrooms are the spaces that our students need. So I do teach a lot about cultural responsive teaching. How do you make sure that you embrace their name, their background, their culture, their language, because that is essential for students to be successful. So, I do teach about the research that before you start teaching content, you should know at least 10 personal things about your student. And that is received very well among teachers. Teachers do want to make an impact on students' lives. And so they are putting those tools in their pockets to make sure that they're supporting students. I do have a group, it's called the PLC for newcomers. And those are teachers who are teaching newcomers. Newcomers are students who just arrived from another country, and they're looking for ideas and strategies to better serve our immigrant population. And so we meet once a month on Thursdays, and we chat about how to better support our students. And a lot of my friends have read my book, my teacher friends, and the book is very well received. Like you, they text me pictures with their tissues. I'm like, what are you doing, Miss Francis? What is this? But at the same time, they are taking the strategies, they're taking the ideas on how to work with our most vulnerable population. And what I love the most is that they're saying, I like the book so much, I want my students to read it. And that's exactly what I was looking for teachers to embrace the book so they can then bring it in the classroom for students to begin seeing themselves through the book.
And that's something I would highly recommend folks do. And again, the reason mine is a paper copy is that to get things in time to talk to you, I got a Kindle edition. So I've got it, but it's out there in cyberspace.
Yeah,
But folks, there it is. If you only knew, please do. Uh, I'm going to finish by saying any last words. And how do you get this thing if you're a teacher? And okay, where do you go?
Yeah, well, right.
And one
Yeah.
last, oops, I almost forgot. I know that you have some websites and things like that,
Yeah.
and there'll be links to all that in the blog. But now, how do you get this thing? Come on, tell us.
It's available on Amazon. They've been trying to keep us stocked up in Amazon, but it's been sold out twice. But they
Wow.
have it. They have it right now. So on Amazon, you can get the Kindle version, the paperback version, or you can go to Silet's Education Store and you can get it right there through them. So those are the two places available right now. Or you can contact your local public library. Mine just bought it and they have it at the local library too.
Well, I meet with librarians once a month here in St. Louis, and I'll kind of mention that they ought to be adding this one to their
Nice,
uh,
nice.
uh, things. So we are now at that point where there is a Bomberito tradition. Okay, and the tradition is how to end these things. And what we do is called a Zoom wave goodbye. So we're going to wave out there to all those folks out in Cyberland. And thank you so much. It's been really inspiring. I hope that the book is a continued success. And thank you for your passion for your
Thank
students
you.
and your passion for helping teachers. Boy, we need a lot more teachers like you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
so
for the space and time.
Zoom wave goodbye here. Bye.
Bye.